Volunteer Manager here at Secure Futures, and delighted to have you be a part of this new exciting lesson Money Path webinar that we're going to be doing this morning. I thank all of you for your commitment to Secure Futures and the financial education we provide to area students. We are really excited to share the Money Path app and lesson with you and with the students that you will share it with, and have you get ready to share your knowledge and experience in the classrooms. Our objectives for the day is to prepare you to confidently facilitate Money Path. We're going to completely walk through the lesson, and both showing you the app itself and also guiding you to understand how to present it as a volunteer. So we'll be reviewing all the program materials and how to use them, and then I'll be refreshing you on volunteer logistics, how to connect to programs and get the materials that you need and so forth. We're delighted that so many of you are money coaches that are taking this, and some of you are past money sense volunteers that are taking this lesson. We're happy to get you up to speed on this new exciting lesson that we have. What you're seeing on the screen is how you will log into the Money Path application. You were sent login instructions prior to that, and we hope that you've created an account for yourself so that you can play with the app. Before we get started in jumping into that, I want to just refresh you. Our mission at Secure Futures is to provide financial literacy programs and resources that empower students to make sound financial decisions. We have a vision statement that talks about building communities where students and their families make informed financial decisions and take control of their financial future. You know, quite often nonprofit and other organizations will create vision statements that really are lofty goals and aren't something that we actually hit the mark on. At Secure Futures, we hit the mark on that. There is no doubt that the work that you will do in a classroom will not only affect the student that's in front of you, but their families and the communities in which they live. We're delighted to have you be a part of that. We really believe that this financial education that we provide, that you provide, fights poverty, that it is something that is an underutilized weapon that fights against poverty. And we know that students of low income backgrounds especially need it, and it's a focus of our program. We have 3 different programs that are offered at Secure Futures, and many of you know this already. Many of you are coming to us as previous Money Sense volunteers. That's our 3-lesson program that has 90-minute lessons that volunteers take into the classroom. We find that the Money Path program pairs very well with that, and we're finding a lot of teachers are interested in having 3 lessons and the Money Path lesson added. So if you're not trained for Money Sense, we encourage you to do that as well. You're going to be trained today for the Money Path lesson, and many of you are also familiar with our Money Coach program, a semester-long commitment to mentoring students in a small group situation. You're working with 3 or 4 other coaches. So we have 3 volunteer roles in the organization that implement 3 different programs, and we hope that you will consider involvement in any of those as the time fits right. We're finding that volunteers are going back and forth in different programs, that they're pairing different programs. The Money Coach program does a Money Path lesson. The Money Sense program is often paired with Money Path, and so we encourage you to consider involvement in all of the programs that we have. Pat, I'll pass it over to you to start talking about the Money Path program itself.
Sounds great. So Money Path really is a program that is the result of the work we've been doing over the years. Again, I think Kathy mentioned we've been teaching financial education. You've been teaching financial education for 14 years, and we've spent a lot of time in the classroom. We've learned a lot, and we've found by talking with students as well as teachers that there were quite a few gaps. A lot of individual financial concepts might be shared in the classroom where they learn about something independently. They might learn about budgeting independently. They might learn about selecting a college independently. They might have some career exploration tools, and they can look at things independently. But what those programs didn't do is connect all the dots and help students really make decisions or see what their decisions, how they're going to impact them based on what they choose to do after they graduate high school, through making decisions on their career, starting pay, college or not, how to pay for college, and then fast forwarding them into a future budget where they have their career pay, and then manipulate their budget and create savings goals and see how they can actually achieve those financial goals. And so MoneyPath really gives them a clear view of how things may look based on the decisions they're making upon graduation of high school. So we've had it out there about 1.25 years at this point. We've got about 6,000 students that have been through the lesson and are on the app. We just released version 2 of the app last week, and we've already had over 300 new students from over 12 high schools participate in version 2, and things are going very well, and the enhancements have been very well received. So you'll see those today. If you are a past presenter of or user of MoneyPath, you'll see the enhancements, and if you're brand new, you'll obviously see the program in full for the first time. So what I'm going to start out with is taking a look at the Facilitator guide that we've put together for you from a volunteer standpoint. Just going to point out sort of how this is laid out and some of the most important parts of it for you. Something new that we've added is this pre-session preparation. And it's just an outline that you can take a look at before you go into the classroom to help get yourself ready for the actual delivery and facilitation of MoneyPath. I'm not going to go through these items. They're pretty self-explanatory. The only thing I'll comment on is the volunteer confirmation, the last outline item. And again, that's where you're going to find everything you need to know about your actual day of facilitation from a logistical standpoint, as well as the class code to set your student accounts up is also detailed in that. We've also put together a session at a glance. Here's a really easy way for you to see what the overall 90 minutes roughly is going to look like. I will actually go through these pieces individually in more detail, but just sort of a quick flyby. Arriving early is always really good, and being able to greet students and maybe shake a few hands and hand them their name tents and have them put their first name on the front of it. You'll want to have an introduction of who you are prepared, and then just know how the kickoff activity will get students started and engaged in the actual lesson also. And then you'll help them get registered and demo the first few screens of the app. The students will then create their plans. There are a few really important screens that you will do a group illustration of to make sure they understand them well. If you happen to be presenting MoneyPath in 2 parts, you'll end your first part here, and then obviously begin the next time that you come with having students finish their plan and completing the reflection questions, which we'll take a look at also in a moment. But this is really what you use for your debrief, is getting them to respond to the questions, and then getting a dialogue going. And then finally, closing things up with sharing how the students should use the checklist in the application, having them complete the survey, which now is built right into the application, so it's electronic, no more paper, which is great. And then your wrap up and sort of words of encouragement as they move from MoneyPath to whatever they're doing next. So the first thing that we'd like to do is show you how the students will be registering for their accounts. And as Kathy mentioned, hopefully all of you have done that. If you haven't, please do that after the call today. It's a very simple process. But the best way for you to learn, and that's on that pre-session outline that I mentioned, the best way for you to learn is to go into MoneyPath and actually build some paths as if you were a junior or senior in high school, so that you can see how the application works, and it's going to allow you to transfer really your knowledge and guidance to the students in the classroom when you're working with them. Before we go to the actual app, I'm going to reference the student workbook. So you'll pass these out ahead of time, and again, the students have right in their workbook how to register, starting with going to the moneypathapp.org URL. What I like to do, and like I said, we've delivered this over the last week to quite a few students. If you tell them to open up their workbook, they'll just start this process on their own, and most of them, you don't even require any instruction. They just need the class code from you to get their account set up. And there's a couple of other things in the workbook that we've highlighted for the students, and you'll see those as we move through. The paying for school is really an important piece of the puzzle, and I'll illustrate that in a moment, but this is one of your group illustrations. How the student loans work, as well as their future monthly budget, are other really important pieces. How they can manipulate and edit their budget from a savings and spending standpoint, as well as making sure they understand the goal timeline and what does that really mean to them from a financial perspective. And then a new and really powerful tool in the app is that they can save paths. And here you can see I've got examples of saved paths, and then they can actually compare paths to help them make decisions. I mentioned the reflection questions. These really are just questions about their experience in the app and making decisions as they went through the app. You will tell them to take a look at these before they get started, just pointing them out, but after they actually complete a path in MoneyPath, then you want them to go back and actually answer these questions and write answers down. So there's 2 pages of reflection questions, and again, you'll use these as a debrief. And then finally, they have a checklist at the end. It's really their to-do list, and I'll point that out when we're in the app also. So I'm going to jump into the actual application at this point, and again, we'll sort of get started with the first piece of the puzzle, which is having the students actually set up their accounts. So you simply click on Have a Class Code, and then you're going to enter the class code for your class. It will be different each time that you go to a classroom. So I'm just going to use the one that we used with you from a training standpoint. But they simply type in the number that you give them and click on Validate Code. And then it's really straightforward. They're simply putting their name, the year they graduate from high school, their email. We want them to use their personal email as long as it's not a barrier at their school, but most of the time it is not. That way they don't have to change their email after they graduate from high school. And then they're going to create a password, and there are no restrictions as far as how they create it. They can use any combination of letters, numbers, etc. that they'd like. And then they're going to simply click Create Account. I'm going to not do that because I already have multiple accounts set up, but it's a really straightforward process. We had 12 classrooms of about 20 kids do this on Friday, and it was all set in about 2 minutes. So it's a really smooth process. There's no confirmation email that goes to them. It's simply self-registration. So I'm going to jump back into the facilitator guide for a moment. I kind of jumped ahead there for a second and showed you how to set the account up. But after that session at a glance and the account registration instructions, we have created a little more detail for you around the different segments of the MoneyPath facilitation. So again, I'm not going to go word for word through this, but I'm just going to highlight a few things. So the educator will introduce you and let the kids know what you're doing with them that day. But it's important for you to introduce yourself and who you are, why you volunteer for Secure Futures, and a little bit about our organization, and then why do you think it's important to teach financial education, and that these young people have a good foundation from a financial know-how and financial capability standpoint. So you can take a moment to share sort of your beliefs and values around that. It's also good to set some simple ground rules. We have a few outlined here. I always like to tell the kids, it's not my job to lecture you. I know they're smart and bright and have ideas, so I'm going to ask questions and want them to obviously share their ideas, and I want them to ask questions also and be curious, and hopefully learn from some of the things that I might be able to share. And then it's also important to just make sure that you ask students to be respectful when someone else is speaking. Then you jump into the kickoff activity. So top left here in the facilitator guide, it's a really simple but effective activity. You're simply going to ask the students to answer this question: what does money mean to you? And we like to have them answer it with one word and to write that answer on the back of their name tent. Give them about 1 minute to do this, and then ask for 4 or 5 responses. Most of the time, it's pretty easy for students who want to volunteer. Otherwise, you can simply, call on students and ask them to share what their response was. You'll get a host of different answers. You could get success. I'm thinking of some of the ones I got on Friday. I got success, stability, capability, stress. You'll get all kinds of different responses. I always ask them to describe those a little bit more to me so we can learn a little bit more. But after you get those responses, this 4th bullet point here is a nice summary, but just sharing that money is necessary to support whatever needs and goals that these young people decide they want to create and achieve during their lifetime. And so learning how to manage it well will help them be successful. Then you're going to tell them what they're going to be doing for the rest of the class in MoneyPath. And we have right in the middle here, really the highlights. They're going to choose these various items and build a plan and actually be able to see, paint a picture of what their future can look like based on the decisions they're making around these different areas. It's also important to tell the students that their goal should not be to choose the highest income in the app. We really do want them to explore and again, do things that they're interested in, but build awareness around what they're interested in, and kind of go in with their eyes wide open regarding what things could look like financially based on the decisions that they make. It's also important to make sure and not judge a path that a student takes, whether they decide to go into the workforce immediately or go on to school or go into an apprenticeship. It's our job to really guide and help them learn throughout the process and become more aware of what those decisions are going to look like. So next you move into the account registration, which I just illustrated. So have them all set up their accounts, and then you're going to show them the first few screens. And I'll give you an example of how I do that. Once you do share the first few screens and everybody's on their way, I tell them that at the end they'll be prompted to save their first path, and if they want to do another path, they can continue to save paths, as many as they want, and then there'll be functionality where they can compare them also. And then at that point, once you turn them loose, you want to give them time to work in the application themselves and kind of leave them alone. I don't really like to bug anybody for at least 10 minutes, maybe longer, and I just kind of wander around. You will naturally get questions as they start working in the app, but let them experience it for on their own, and then there will be some spots again where you do group illustration. And I'm going to actually jump into the app. But before, so here's where they're working independently now, and we give you some ideas about how you can ask questions to the students to see how they're doing. But at a certain point, when everyone has had a chance to maybe hit the paying for school screens, if there are a lot of kids going to college, or if they're at the budget at this point, you're going to kind of ask everyone to pause and join you, look up to the front to the projection screen, and you're going to actually illustrate these 3 particular areas to make sure that they have a good foundation of what they're doing in those areas. So with that, now I'm going to jump into the app and we'll take a tour through MoneyPath.
Again, Pat, I just want to reiterate that the volunteers, you're utilizing your MoneyPath account to make illustrations to the students. And that's why it's so important, as Pat said earlier, to have some paths already set up so that you can go in using your account on the projection screen that's available in the room to illustrate.
Yeah, I think it's always good to try to build something reasonable, like a reasonable path, not where there's $100,000 in student loan debt and things like that. You kind of want to show a good, clean illustration. The other point we should remind you of is once your account is set up, you just sign into your account. You will not be using the class code that we give you to give to the students because you already have an account. So I always ask everyone, I'll tell them, ask them, raise your hand if you are not on the Get Started screen. And that way you don't have a lot of people shouting, yes, I'm good to go. So just you want to kind of find out if there's anybody having any trouble. Then they're simply going to click on Get Started. This is new. It's a really important question for them to answer. Because you are volunteers for us, you are probably 99% chance that you will be working with high school students, so they're going to choose high school. The reason we changed this is we do some work with college students, and for instance, we want the capability for people who are not in school or anyone that's already started in the workforce, as an example, if they know their job and if they happen to have student loan debt and they know their student loan debt and they want to enter their own information, they can simply click on that, hit next, and they can build their own real life path here. So again, I'm just illustrating that, but probably 99 times out of 100, you will not be working with students in this sort of a process. So have everyone be on high school when you're in a high school and click next. So this is that little demo that you're going to be doing. You show them that there are 4 broad-based paths that they can choose. And so if they're going to choose workforce, they're simply going to click on it, hit next, and now they're presented with different areas of interest that they could go into. So if they're interested in personal care, they can click on that, and then they're going to see jobs that are associated with personal care. And as they click on them, they'll see career examples as well as a description of what the job is by hovering over the eye. And then they'll see typical on the job as well as what the pay looks like for that particular career. A lot of students will do some sort of college. So I like to just show that really quickly, the first couple screens. So college and other degrees, click on next, and they have 4 choices. Bachelor's, 2-year associate, 4-year plus grad school immediately after getting your bachelor's, and then non-degree programs and certificates. And so this is going to be most commonly things like, for instance, cosmetology or HVAC type things, or installation type jobs, those sorts of things. So all can be very good choices for students depending on what they want to do. So bachelor's, another new question. We give students the ability to say, I plan to transfer, meaning I'm going to go to a 2-year college first and then transfer to the 4-year main campus university. So for example, here in Milwaukee, there's the Washington County UW location. That's part of UWM. Students that go there generally live at home, and it's just a lower cost option for those first 2 years. And so they can do that, click I plan to transfer, and we walk them through choosing their bachelor degree, but then they choose their 2-year school first and how they're going to pay for it and see if there's going to be any student loan debt. And then they go back and finish up and choose their 4-year for the last 2 years, and again, go through how they're going to pay for it and see if there's any student loan debt for that one. And then we combine their student loan debt from the two school choices that they made. I'm going to just stick with the I do not plan to transfer for our illustration. But at this point, you're going to go ahead. Sorry, I must be talking too much. Bear with me for a moment. I just realized that I asked our developer to make a couple changes this morning. We have a couple misspellings in here, and they may be doing that. So I apologize if we get a timeout like that. At this point, you want to turn them loose and let them spend 15 minutes in the app again, and you're going to kind of walk the room. What I'm going to do now is actually finish a path and go right through so that everyone has a good idea of how each of the screens work. We've added, just so you can see here also, really on most screens, there's the ability for someone to add their own whatever it is they're looking at. In this case, it would be their own bachelor's degree interest. So if somebody doesn't find what they're looking for in the menu of options, they could simply click Add My Own and self-type in, what their study interest is. So I'm going to choose business. That was the route I took. You also can start typing in this box. Like if I typed accounting, it would have highlighted this box for me. So it'll start to narrow things down. If I type nursing, it'll find health type of careers also. So again, you can have them use the search boxes. So I hit next, and now I'm presented with all the different majors and careers. And as I indicated, they really should explore these, and they can see by hovering over the eye what the job is from a description standpoint, and then they can also see examples of careers in that category. And as they sort of move through and click on different things, they can see different pay levels for all of these business majors and careers. We've added quite a few to the app, this version 2 also. Just pointing out the starting salary, that's what they're going to end up being assigned when they do their budget. And in the college route, percent employed is exactly how it sounds. It's how many students that graduated within 6 months last year actually are employed in these fields. And so you can see a high degree of business majors, if you will, are employed in that particular major, and 9% have decided to also continue their education, which is going to be some sort of a graduate program. I click on next, and now I'm going to choose my school. So again, we have the entire U.S. public and private school database here. Also, if a student for some reason cannot find their college, they can click on Add a College and simply type that college in, and then they'll go to the next screen and they have to put the tuition and costs associated with that on their own research. We added that just in case there's some sort of specialty school, or if somebody's going to school internationally, because we don't have a database of international schools. So again, you can use the search tool. I went to Eau Claire, so I'll give a shout out for my alma mater here. I'm then presented with the costs associated with going to Eau Claire. So this is the sticker price. Students change the variables. If I happen to be in a different state coming to Wisconsin, I'm going to be presented with the out-of-state costs, which are significantly higher. That's a big aha moment for students. A lot of them don't realize for public schools that is a big difference. And then, of course, are they going to live on campus, off campus, or at home? And they'll see those variables change also. Another really cool new feature that we added in version 2 is they answer this question: how long will it take you to graduate? If you're a full-time student, we default all of them to what the standard would be. So for the 4-year bachelor's degree, it would be 8 semesters or 4 years. Let's say that someone knew they were going to graduate in 3.5 years because they have AP credits, or they took dual high school / college courses where they got college credit. If they can go to school 1 full semester less, they could change this to 7 or to 6 if they were able to shave off an entire year. And then we will adjust all of their costs to represent that as they go through the app. You click on Next, and now they're presented with estimating their financial aid. This is the best that students can do before they get an actual award letter from a college that has accepted them. We get all these numbers from the U.S. Department of Education. They get it all from the schools directly, and it's very standardized. They take last year's freshmen and they categorize them based on their family's income, and then they put the average amount that was provided in free financial aid to the freshmen in that particular income category. So as you go from higher to lower family income, you're going to see the estimated financial aid increase. If students don't know their family's income, they should choose I don't know, and they'll get the average of all incoming freshmen. And again, this is free financial aid, not student loans. What they should do, and you should ask them, is who should you talk to this about? And obviously they should say their parents. Once they get an award letter from a school, they should go back and they can enter custom amounts. And so they click on Enter Custom Amounts, and on their award letter, all grants, scholarships, and work study will be detailed, and they put the totals for all of those in here and then get their actual financial aid. So very powerful. They can get this to be very realistic. But as a placeholder, they should estimate their financial aid. Next, and I should point out, here's your, we're in the paying for school section, and you can see all the different menu items that are up here. So you can jump to each of them through going through this process also. So now I'm on other scholarships. If I won a scholarship, for instance, from the Rotary, I can type that in. I can put that I'm going to get $1,500. I can put the number of years, 1, 2, 3, or 4, and it'll show me my total for all 4 years, and then it's going to provide me with the average amount I'll get for each year. And the reason that's important is because we're solving for how to pay for 1 year of school. Click on Next, Total Annual Gifts. This is generally from parents or from family. So if I know I'm going to get $5,000 a year from family, I can type that in, or 1,000 or 0, depending on, again, the conversation I've had with my parents or family. This is a great tool for them to use to sit down and go through this with important people in their life to see if they are able to help contribute. If I have money saved, let's say I have been working and saved money up for school, this is the only area where the students have to do a little math in their head. So the annual amount that they are going to apply toward paying for school is what they're putting here. So said differently, if I have $4,000 saved up to go to school before I go to school, I'm going to put $1,000 in here if I'm going to a 4-year school. So the entire $4,000 is applied across my 4 years. If I'm going to a 2-year school, I'd enter $2,000 here if I have $4,000. So again, that's the only spot where they have to do a little bit of math in their head. If I'm going to work and use some of my employment income during school, so here's during my actual semesters here, let's say I'm going to work 10 hours a week at $9 an hour. During the summer, I'm going to work full-time, 40 hours a week at $9 an hour. We do the calculation for them. We take out taxes, and then they determine how much of this am I going to apply toward college. We encourage about 75%. It certainly depends on the student. Remember the difference. So if I put $5,000 in here, it means I'm going to use the other $2,000 for other things that are really not associated with going to school, because those costs are all built in already. So it's most of the time it's going to be fun money. And then I hit next and I get a full summary of all of my funding for school. If I need to make a change, let's say I had a typo and this said $50,000 in here, I simply click edit and I can go in and change those numbers. So it's really easy to use. Once I'm done, we compare their costs for a year of school to the funding that they have coming in. In my example, I'm short $1,440. That becomes my estimated student loan amount per year. If I have to do that 4 years, I'll have to borrow $5,700. We calculate their interest and we calculate their monthly student loan payment. So in my hypothetical example, this looks pretty good. Once they are getting close to graduation, they can come back and they can enter their actual student loan debt level. We'll calculate the payment if they don't know it, or they can just enter their monthly payment. So as you're seeing here, we're creating this tool for them to use into their future as young adults once they start their careers also. But I'm going to go back and just use the estimate that has been built at this point. So I'm going to pause there for a moment and open up the lines before we jump into the actual budget. So let me take everybody off of mute.
Is that a chat there?
And let's see what we have here. Yeah, thank you, Sherry. Kristen, actually, our program director, actually caught that this morning too, and so I appreciate that. So Sherry found a typo, and if you find any of those types of items, or if you run into any bugs or any problems, please let Kathy or somebody here know, so that we can look into it. Just like any new digital tool, whether it's a smartphone or something like this, there's going to be bugs, and so we need you to tell us about them. I have the lines open. If you have a question, unmute your phone on your end, and we'll just wait here for about 15-20 seconds to see if anybody jumps in. Otherwise, we'll start up again. Hi, Carla. Go ahead. Yes, the only browser that you can't use is Internet Explorer. Yeah, you know, I know some organizations still use Internet Explorer. It's software. Internet Explorer is not actually a maintained browser anymore. It's still out there, but it's not updated, so it doesn't work well with software applications. And so you know, that'll be something we avoid going forward. Now, Microsoft Edge, their new browser would be supported by it, but yeah, we recommend people use, you know, Chrome or Safari if they're yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. And we will refresh the data for all of the pay as well as the education costs every year. We get the data from very secure and reliable sources. Just to mention a few of the organizations. So we have relationships with the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. We get some of our pay information from them. We get U.S. Department of Education. We get all of our college costs and financial aid estimated information from them. And then we get bachelor's and master's pay from an organization called NACE, which is the National Association of Corporations and Employers. We get data from pay scale for the associate degrees, starting pay levels. So just to give you sort of a little bit of where we get that data from. All right, I'm going to mute everybody again here. And now we'll move into the fun part, the budget. So it's important that, again, students understand this is their future monthly budget based on the career they chose. Whether they went to college or went into the workforce right away, doesn't really matter. This is whatever career they chose and the starting pay associated with it. We spread their budget. We do actual taxes behind the scenes. We do sort of two broad tax categories. We find a break in the tax tables somewhere in, I think, the 40,000-ish range, and everybody below that gets a certain tax rate. Everybody above it gets a certain average tax rate. But we do use the real rules from a standard deduction standpoint. So they're going to be pretty close to their taxes. Obviously, Social Security and Medicare are going to be right on the money. The rest of the expenses and savings then are really spread using generally acceptable financial planning budget percentages. As a financial planner for my entire career, I will tell you that that's a starter only. Obviously, it really is important for people to personalize this. As you can see, we bring that student loan payment over to their budget that they calculated. But what you're going to have everybody do is edit their budget. And so they're going to click on Edit Budget. This, again, is another place you're going to do an illustration to make sure, after they've gotten here, to make sure they understand how to use it. So we've made some big enhancements here. First of all, under monthly expenses, again, we've standardized all of our categories here to match up with the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. And now we have a description of what's included in each of these. So as you hover over the I, students might say, oh man, I didn't think about that. Maybe I do need more in entertainment because of, look at all these different items that I need to include in this category. So again, point that out to them. We also have in the middle here this compare in green. And if you hover over the I, it tells you what they're looking at there. So this is the average spending for the average young adult across the U.S. And the profile of this person is a 29-year-old with an income of approximately $44,500. What they really want to, and it's a single person, and they live alone. It's a one-unit household. And what they want to do here is compare their expenses to that individual, because if they're way off, if somebody puts in $200 for food, which includes all their groceries and dining out, and they see the average person spends $403, they're way off the mark. Obviously, if somebody has an income higher than $44,500, they can afford to spend more in some of these categories. But most importantly, they can probably afford to save more. So we encourage them to come over and maybe set a higher savings goal if they can. And you can see as I type in that box, it created a deficit because I'm increasing. If I went the other way, if I decrease my savings, it's going to create a surplus. So if I make some changes to these, both increases, I now need to come up with $92. Notice I cannot click done if I have a number here, and we tell them in red what they need to do. So in my case, I'm just going to change my housing for this example so that we can jump ahead here. So I'm going to reduce that to make up for that, and now I'm at a balanced budget. Click on done. All my changes are reflected in the budget. And now I click on next. And again, you're going to make sure students understand what this is. I like to ask someone to tell me. I'll have them all go to their goal timeline and I'll say, somebody explain to me what you're looking at here. And so, make it a little larger for you. That $300 that I'm saving each month, and that's not including my retirement savings, based on these starter goals over on the left that we gave them, this is how long it would take them to reach each one of those goals. So you can see we have the time frame listed here. Now, what we can do is, I had a young man on Friday, he wanted to buy an RX-7. He was a car buff. And I said, well, are you going to need more? Is the car more expensive? He said, oh, yeah. I said, what do you want to put in there? He put $10,000 in and hit save. And now it updated my timeline. It pushed it out further. It was in the 8-year range. Now it's in the 10-year range. So it's going to take me longer to achieve these goals because I edited that. They can do whatever they want in here. They can, again, label them however they want. They can change the amounts, increase, decrease, but it's a really important piece of the puzzle. They also can go in and see what retirement looks like. So we want to show the power of time as well as compounding your contribution that you're putting in. So in my example, I'm putting in $200 a month. We put in an employer match. And if they hover over that last button, any of them actually, they can see what that would grow to over a 40-year period. And I like to point out, they increased $600,000 that last 10 years. So it's really important to get started back here when things look slow, but it really makes a difference, obviously, in the long run. Then we give them a summary of all of their decisions here on one screen, and then click next, and now they can save their path, which I'll do. They can take the survey when they hit this. I like to have them all do it at the end, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment. So I'm going to hit no thanks. Actually, I'll show you right now. Here's your user badge up here. So if I click on this, you can see the administrative things you can do, signing in and out. My paths that I save are here. My account settings, if I want to change my email password, are here. And the survey is here. So I kind of like to have them all do the survey at the end. And then the user guide will likely be published at the end of this week. But we have a user guide every single screen that you can possibly go through and how each screen works. So we have pictures as well as instruction. And again, I'm going to go to the paths. So here are some paths that I have saved. If I want to compare a couple of different paths, so here I have nursing. Let's say I'm trying to decide on a school, and I'm not taking a side here, but I'm going to say compare paths up here. And in my hypothetical examples here, I hit compare. And now I see sort of all the most important pieces of the puzzle, what the education cost is, funding for each, etc. And it might help me make decisions. Students have told us it will help them make decisions by being able to compare paths. And if I want to just go back in and create a new path, I can click on create a new path and we'll start them right at the beginning. And then just to finish up, and then we'll open it up for a few questions. Again, this checklist at the end is important. It's a to-do list. So if I've been accepted to the college where I intend to go, I can click on that and know that's done. If I have my award letter and know how I'm going to pay for school, I would click on that. So that's really the process that they're going through here on the checklist. So with that, I'm going to pause and open up the line again and see if there are any questions. Then I'll wrap this piece up and turn it over to Kathy to talk a little bit about logistics. Okay, line should be open. And you'll have to unmute yourself if you have any questions too.
Pat, this sure offers a lot more opportunity to compare paths and look at different options. Some volunteers in the past have said, some kids will just breeze through it very quickly. And so you have the opportunity as a volunteer to encourage students to do multiple paths and do some comparisons. And it's very exciting.
Absolutely. It's pretty broad, a lot of new enhancements. I will show one other thing as far as something new that we've brought in here in the app. So I'm going to go to create new path. So military is in here also. And I actually had a young man last week that he plans to go to college first, so he would choose officer. And then when they go, and then we present them with the actual careers that they can choose. This comes right from the military databases, and it gives a job description. And as they click on it, they'll be able to see what that job description is. The pay level is the same for all of them, so that is accurate when you're seeing that. And if they're going to enlist, again, they're going to see very similar positions, but the pay level is going to be different. If they enlist, what we did to sort of put them on an even playing field is we're giving them the year 5 salary if they're choosing a career in the military. That way they're on par with kind of the rest of the people that are using, individuals that are using the app and, for instance, coming out of college. So just note that also. All right, one last unmute and see if anybody has any questions. Otherwise, I'm going to turn it over to Kathy.
Any questions on how to present the app itself? And then I'm going to move into how you get scheduled and the follow-up.
Okay. And just a reminder again to make sure it's in your facilitator guide, but make sure you maybe make a special note that we want them to complete the survey, because now that it's electronic, it really is going to allow us to do more reporting of outcomes and much easier also. All right, Kathy.
Okay, there are 3 ways to get scheduled for a MoneyPath program. As many of you know, I regularly send volunteer update emails to you, and we're going to show you a sample of that today. Basically, once or twice a month, Secure Future sends out a volunteer update email. It has special announcements at the beginning about our different programs, training opportunities, and other information that Secure Futures wants to recommend or make you aware of. And then we have volunteer opportunities, primarily the Money Sense and MoneyPath opportunities are listed there. There are sometimes Money Coach references available also. There's a link to our volunteer opportunity webpage, and I'll show you that in just a minute, and then instructs you to contact me if you're interested in any of the opportunities. I wanted to show you that in this highlighted piece here, if you are a MoneyPath volunteer that is not trained for Money Sense or not interested in presenting Money Sense program, you can request any of the programs that have a MoneyPath lesson. For example, this Kingdom Prep program here is a program that has a Money Sense Bank Your Future lesson paired with a MoneyPath lesson. And you can, if you're interested in this location, you can reply to me and let me know that you'd be interested in presenting MoneyPath. If you're trained for Money Sense, we are delighted to have the same volunteer, just as we recommend in our Money Sense programming generally, to have the same volunteer present multiple, all of the lessons at a scheduled place allows you to establish rapport with the students and have consistency in the lessons that you're presenting. We highly recommend that opportunity, but you can also break lessons apart. Notice again that some of our MoneyPath programs are scheduled over 2 dates. This is an example of one that we have upcoming at St. John's Northwestern Military Academy. So you'll be in the classroom on the 11th of March and the 18th and presenting MoneyPath over a 2-date period of time. So there's different types of opportunities that are out there. Then, as I hope you have bookmarked our volunteer opportunity webpage. And this is on our website. It lists Money Sense, Money Path, and Money Coach opportunities that you can visit at any time and find out what's available. We try to update this minimally once a week and sometimes twice a week so that we will have the current opportunities that are there as people adopt the programs that are available. I also target volunteers by, if you tell me you really enjoyed presenting at St. John's Military Academy, before we even put it on the website, I might contact you to see if you're interested in doing that program. So I also target people to connect to programs. And of course, both many of you are money coaches. You are connected to that presenting your Money Path program because you are a money coach, and that's a set lesson that we have within the Money Coach program. Pat, can you help me connect to the confirmation email? However you've connected to the Money Path program, you will get a confirmation email. So coaches, you're going to get this confirmation email, as well as those of you who are doing it as a Money Path or a Money Sense Paired Money Path program. It basically has all the information that you would have seen on the website before you adopted the program. The most important thing on it is it lists your class code for this particular program. So anyone in the Running Rebels program will be opening their account using that class code. As in all of our programs, it lists the educator or site partner that you're working with and gives them instructions. And then there is a section that has all of your instructions. And we put in here again, remind you with preparation for where you can again look at the facilitator guide, the student workbook. If you're an experienced volunteer, we let you know what's been updated in the Money Path program, and all of that is available in the resource library. We again remind you to access the app through your personal account. Forget password is available to you, and we let you know that we will be mailing you or delivering to you the facilitator guide, the volunteer, the name tents that you'll utilize in the classroom. Again, that's everybody except money coaches, the student workbooks, and these will be delivered, perhaps in this case, this volunteer was going to their home address, but Felicia Fluker, our program associate, will let you know how those will be coming to you. It's your responsibility to bring all materials to the classroom. And we're highlighting in this now that the evaluation is actually built into the app. You won't get paper forms like you used to. If we have parking instructions or any building entry instructions, like you have to bring your ID, is quite often recommended by school security systems and so forth. So all of that information is in there to you and the educator that you will be working with in the confirmation email. Once you're presented a program, if it's a 2-date program, I will check in with you after the first date to see if there's anything that we can help you with before you enter the classroom a second time. And all of you will get a link to an evaluation after you present the program. We thank you for presenting the program and give you the opportunity to respond and let us know how it goes. That response is twofold. We are an impact-driven organization. We really appreciate any feedback you get us. As Pat asked earlier, if you find a typo in the program or if something isn't working for you and the students that you're working with, we want to know about that, and we make changes in our program. We listen to you. I also listen to you as a volunteer. I want to know which school sites you enjoyed presenting at, and where you might want to present in the future, and those questions are also asked on that as well. Are there any questions on the logistics of how to connect to a program, the support that's provided by Secure Futures during and after the program, anything that you are curious about for connecting to future programs?
Lines are open.
lastly, I just want to wrap up again how important it is if you have not yet created a volunteer account. I encourage you to stay on the line after we let everybody else go. It's important that you have that account, that you play with the app, that you create some paths that you will illustrate in the classroom. So if you have not yet created an account, I'd like you to stay on the line and we'll help you get that set up before you leave us today. But we can't thank you enough for training to be a MoneyPath facilitator. This is going to impact students in a vast way, and we can't do it without you. The Secure Futures, what sets us apart is you as a volunteer presenting the program. The kids will benefit from the experience that you bring into the classroom, and we thank you for that.
And I'll just close again, thanking you also. Can't do it without you, but this is really a fun lesson to facilitate because they're building a real plan. It's all based on their real life, their decisions they're making. It's a lot of fun. It's not a lecture. I try to approach it as if I were sitting down with my kids when they were at this point in their lives and talking with them about these decisions, and they literally have a tool that they can use on an unlimited basis going forward, and there's no cost to them at all either. So have a lot of fun working with it, and again, the best way for you to get really up to speed is to build paths right in MoneyPath for yourself. So with that, we thank you very much, and
the lines are open if you have any questions or if we can assist you in any way before you leave this training experience. Thank you.
Otherwise, this does conclude our training. Thank you.
Can we assist anybody with any particular questions? Sherry, the code that we sent confirmation for this event today and that we illustrated at the beginning, that 10030, I believe it is the account that you'll use to set up for you. Sherry, oh, no problem at all. And actually, I'm surprised that so this will be your first involvement with MoneyPath? Okay, well, all right, well, just make sure that you don't already have an account.
I can
So,
check right now.
yeah.
Have you used MoneyPath before, Sherry?
Okay.
You never logged in at all?
You were in the Northwestern Mutual training, right, Sherry? Yeah.
Okay. You might be prompted if you do have an account. It might say you already have an account with this email. Then you're just going to want to set a new password. Do like a forgot password.
Excellent. Okay. Appreciate your being on today, Sherry. Getting trained.
Thanks. Anybody else? I see Bob and Charlotte and Jennifer on here.
Awesome.
Thanks,
appreciate you getting trained for this one, Bob. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Bob. Bye. Okay. All right, folks. Well, thanks again for joining, and we'll go ahead and exit the meeting.